Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a discussion over the Maximum Apocalypse Wasted Wilds expansion. Now, this came out a year ago, and so I've had it for a while, and I thought I had done a review, but apparently I never did, and I don't know why. But this was an expansion that I was always excited for because Maximum Apocalypse is, to me, a very, very thematic and super fun apocalyptic game because it covers the range of post-apocalyptic worlds, going from Cthulhu to zombies to robots, aliens, like tons, kaiju I think is one of them, so tons of different ones. And whenever they announced an expansion for it, I was like, dope, this is going to be super awesome. And for the most part, it is. Like, there's a couple things that the expansion did that I was like, okay, that's fine. So the expansion comes with a mission, like it's like a campaign of 10 missions that range from, just your standard, like, okay, go out and get food. Like, and they'll give you mission objectives and certain actions to do on those missions. Like, okay, hey, you need to go investigate smoke signals. You need to go find a certain tile. And when you play a bunch of those missions in a row, they slowly start to feel kind of samey, where it's literally just find this tile, get fuel per player, go back to this tile. And normally that's perfectly fine whenever you're playing just the regular game where it's a random scenario. But when you're doing a campaign style game, which, it's not really connected. You don't have to play the same characters. You don't log anything. It's just play these missions. So, although it does kind of tell a story, like some things connect from one mission to the next. But overall, you can just be like, I don't want to play the Beekeeper this time. I want to play someone else. And you can. And they slowly integrate more mechanisms. The first mission it has the exposure deck. And then it goes into, okay, now you're adding in tribes. Now you're adding in the day-night cycle. And then now is everything. But a lot of it, I've had missions where it kind of comes down to, well, we're not dying. We have tons of ways to be able to manage our health and manage our hunger. And we auto-kill these enemies, and nothing's spawning because, of the way we built our map, so, nothing's near us. So we just need to find this one card, and, we finally got, it's like we're gonna win. There's nothing here, because there's not, a round track. You're not sitting there oh, man, if we don't do this by the 10th round, we lose. It's just, okay, now we just need to find a card, or find the tile. And if you don't find those in time, then it just kind of drags the missions on. And I've also had missions that we set up the entire thing. One mission literally says, you need to find the rail yard and then take the construction materials from that to a shelter. Literally, the rail yard and the shelter were right next to each other. So it's we found the shelter. It's okay, well, we can't do anything with this until we find the rail yard. Moved one step over. There's the rail yard. All right, we won. So it's just, I would advise against maybe not playing the missions back to back because it can get kind of stale. I would kind of take your time with it, in my own opinion. Or if you're going to do it, then maybe just swap in and out characters just to keep it fresh. They're not, the missions aren't bad. They are still fun, and I know that this game is extremely swingy, because it's supposed to be a roguelike, so you can have games where it's man, everything went our way. This was the easiest mission in the world. Had the right cards at the right time for the right tiles in the right place, boom, we're done. You can also have games where it doesn't go your way and you're constantly getting your ass handed to you. And that's the point of the roguelike. I think this game does do the best job of a board game roguelike that I can think of. Although there's not that many. So this is a good expansion. I like it. It adds a lot of extra, more characters. You have the driver, which is, I was really, a driver? He is awesome. He might be my favorite character because he actually allows you to get in the van and drive it 2 spaces. There are so many cards where it's like, oh, we need to get fuel back to the, or like, yeah, get fuel back to the van. All right, well, let me hop in and I'm just gonna move the van. Like we with paired up with the beekeeper who has a bunch of animals that are versatile in a tons of different ways, and for some weird reason, tons of ways to deal damage. It's like they have a chainsaw. It's like, so what kind of vet were you? But like the Fennec Fox that allows you to reveal a tile in range and it's long range without triggering its effects. So like we had this thing where it's like the beekeeper would have the fox scout out ahead of us, and then we would just move the van, and it's like, oh, okay, time to hop out. We gotta scavenge and get fuel. Oh, hey, there it is. The driver was super, super cool. And then you also have the chef, who has tons of ways to like throw knives, like a utility belt of knives that they could just chuck and sharpen. And what's really cool about some of the modules, like the Norse tribe, for example, is to increase your favor with them, you can trade, and like then you just can spend an equipped gear or a scavenge card and an action to increase your like favor with them. So what was cool with the chef is I would constantly have knives. It's like, oh, okay, yep, here's one of my knives, and now they're always allied with us. And so they're thrown into the monster deck, so if you are allied with them, then the tribesmen will actually attack non-allied enemies. So they'll attack wolves and mammoths and stuff like that for you, which is very helpful. So all the modules I think are really cool. There's 3. Yeah, so you have the exposure deck, and you have this time this time thing, which I think is a little bit confusing almost, because it's kind of like it has this spot for 2, but then there's these notches in here. So it's like, okay, for the icon, that takes up 2 slots, but then you have these little dots, these triangles. That's like, wait a minute. So do I move it by 2 or do I tick it over by 1 each time? It's just weird. But if you do it by ticking it by 1, then it kind of makes sense. Because then that means it's 1, 2. Every 3rd round or every 3rd turn, you're getting a new event. So when it gets to the exposure side, that means anyone who's in an outdoor space takes an exposure, which, I mean, one of the very first ones you get is Frost Nip. So it's like if you draw this, at the end of your turn, you suffer 2 damage. But then for each other exposure card you draw, it gives you other effects. So this one could be hypothermia. When you draw it, suffer 6 damage. So those can be brutal. Some of them, if you have no ways to cure them, either through antidotes or adrenaline like the driver has, or the beekeeper just has their bee mask, which is like, oh, nope, you just ignore those. It can be brutal because it's like, okay, now you, at the start, you have 1 less action. You have 1 less equipped slot. So I like the exposure deck a lot because it kind of makes it to where oh shit, I happen to be outside. Because when you spawn, if you roll a 7, no monsters show up, but the clock ticks 7 times, 4 spaces, which means that you might think that you only have 1 space, or you have more time to get to shelter than you do. So that's nice. I also like the fact that it doesn't always hit you. It's not always an event. If you're in the shelter or you're in the van, which was great with the driver, because it's like, all right, get in, guys. Man, it's cold, right? Let's turn the heater on. You can bypass some of that stuff. Then you have the night cycle, the day-night cycle. This is a deck. I like this as well, because the night cycle is you just flip a card over and you resolve its night effect. And some of these are good and some of them are bad. Like Hunted Prey, move each monster token 1 tile towards the closest player. That sucks. Like that, because when the last game we played, when that popped up, we were both in the same spot, and it was like a bunch of them just swarmed. Luckily, we were about to win the game, but it's like, oh no. So the night thing is cool. This is an event deck, essentially, that doesn't happen all the time. I like that. Because there's something about event decks where it's like every round something unique is happening. And kind of like Dead of Winter, or I don't know, some other game with an event deck where it's like it's spaced out, it makes things more special. You just like, some of them are just passive effects that affect until a new one is drawn. and it could be brutal, but they're very thematic, so I like those a lot. Then you have the tribe. So the tribe will have kind of like a meter on how much they like you from allied to enraged. And the tribe effects basically will slowly cool them down. So they won't be allied with you forever. And they won't hate you forever. Like if they're on irate or allied, eventually like the Norse tribe, for example, will move towards wary regardless of where it's at. So that's really nice. It doesn't mean that they're like if you kill a bunch of their people, they're not always going to hate you. Eventually, they'll cool down. Or if you're allied with them and they're best friends, they'll kind of be like, do we really like them? So that's just a nice little thing to manage. It's not overbearing or anything. And then you have the day cycle. So on the back of the night cards, you have this compass thing where when that hits, you don't draw a card, but every monster token on the board will move in that direction. And I like that as well because that means they're also kind of unpredictable. It's the monsters moving around the map. If you have a token stack of 3 that is like, well, we're never going there unless we have to kill a specific monster and we need to draw some, you might have tokens kind of show up and be in the spot that you needed to go to. So I like that they move. So yeah, I mean, all of the modules in this expansion are great. Like they're just something something extra. And when you have all 4 in a game, it's really not that hard to manage because it's not rapid fire of stuff. So if you're stale or tired of like the stuff that's in Maximum Apocalypse, this really does add some fresh ideas. I think they also did this come with the expansion? I can't remember. I think it did. The supplemental mission book adapts and expands on the older missions featured in previous boxes and expansions. I guess so. But I haven't played these, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so this is a pretty solid expansion to add because it also adds other apocalypse scenarios. Now, I can't remember if they actually get if you can mix and match this stuff in the if you can mix and match this stuff into the regular stuff. I can't remember if it's modular like that because I've only played the stuff within the base box. Like everything that came in this, it was kind of like on its own. So I haven't tried to incorporate it into the base game. Now, what I did try to incorporate was the actual stuff in the Legendary box, and it does not fit. Like, I mean, you can make it fit for sure, but like they made the Legendary box with these vacuum sealed trays to store tokens and stuff in the cards, but it doesn't fit like it should in the Legendary box, which is extremely annoying. Like, it's just so dumb. I don't understand why companies don't. It's like, you made the Legendary box to hold all the expansions. Why would you make an expansion? And it's not like we don't have the previous stuff. It's like, you're the same company. Like, if it was a different company who for some reason made this expansion, I would kind of get it. They're like, we didn't have the previous stuff. But it's the same company. So it's like, why didn't you design it to fit into the previous box neatly? Not just like in some shitty haphazard way of throwing it in there. It's so annoying. So I don't like it. Other than that, that's really my only negative about it, is that it just doesn't fit nicely into the Legendary box like everything else does. Other than that, yeah, I think I have a discussion on Maximum Apocalypse. Yeah, I do. I definitely do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The only thing I would need to figure out, and maybe someone in the comments can actually tell me, is if you can incorporate these modules into the previous scenarios, because there's a ton in the Legendary box of okay, when you pick this apocalypse, pick this one of these scenarios to play within that apocalypse and kind of set the game up. If you want exposure to deal with, you can. If you want this day-night cycle, I don't see any reason why you couldn't just throw that in there. Maybe the tribes might be weird, but the exposure cards would be nice. to deal with. It's like, oh shit, we're dealing with a robot invasion during the winter. That sucks. So that would be pretty cool. But they also, which I haven't tried yet, but I know it's included, they have a spawn deck, which is nice. Instead of always dealing with the randomness of rolling 2, you actually have kind of a more controlled deck, which because like if you always roll like 2 6s, which funny enough I roll a 6 and a 5, I almost rolled 2 6s again, but it prevents you from constantly rolling the same thing where no monsters ever spawn, so there's never a threat. So yeah, like you can have a more controlled spawn deck than rolling the 2 dice. Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give this expansion a 9. I really like pretty much everything that they added. Again, like the campaign the Frozen Wilds campaign can be kind of samey if you play it, but I mean, I just did like 4 missions in a row, and I mean I still had fun. But by like the end of the 4th one, I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to take a break. And that's really it. All the modules are great. All the characters that they added are great. All the like monsters and different apocalypse things that they added are great. So it's pretty awesome. So that's my thoughts on the Maximum Apocalypse Wasted Wilds expansion. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.